The motel manager gave me exactly one rule on my very first night shift. Never look into the mirror in room 309 after midnight. I didn't listen, and I have been paying for it every single night since. My name doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that 3 months ago I was behind on rent, behind on everything, and a night shift posting for a motel outside Las Vegas was the only job that called me back. Not the Las Vegas you see in movies, not the neon, not the casinos, not the magic. This motel sat 15 miles outside all of that, on a 2-lane road that barely showed up on GPS. The kind of place you only find when you're already lost. The sign out front said Desert Palms Motel, but 2 of the letters were dead. The parking lot held maybe 4 cars, and 2 of those hadn't moved in weeks. You could tell by the dust on the hoods. Rain stains crawled down the exterior walls like long brown fingers. The whole place looked like it had given up on being noticed. The manager, Mr. Harlan, was a thin man in his late 60s, gray at his temples, eyes that seemed permanently focused on something just past your shoulder. He handed me a ring of keys without much of a handshake. "Most rooms are vacant," he said. "Guests check in, you process payment, you don't ask questions. Simple." I nodded. Simple enough. Then he turned back before reaching the door, like he'd almost forgotten the most important part. "Room 309 stays locked. If anyone asks for it, it's unavailable. Permanently unavailable." I almost laughed. Almost. "And if you ever hear knocking from inside that room after midnight, you walk the other direction. You don't knock back. You don't open the door. You don't even say a word. Do you understand?" Something about the way he said it made my stomach drop. I told him yes. I should have asked why. The first few hours passed quietly. I processed 1 check-in around 9. A truck driver who paid cash didn't make eye contact and disappeared up the stairs without a word. By 11, the motel went completely still. Not just quiet, still. The kind of silence that has weight to it, the kind that makes you suddenly aware of your own heartbeat. Even the neon sign outside stopped its buzzing. I remember thinking that was strange. Neon signs don't just stop. I was sitting at the front desk, phone in hand, when I heard it. Footsteps, 2nd floor, slow and heavy. Thump, 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 like something large, something that didn't quite understand how weight worked, was learning to walk across the ceiling above me. I pulled up the security monitor. The hallway was empty. I watched the screen for a full minute. Nothing moved, not even a shadow, but the footsteps continued. Then they stopped. And then came the knocking. 3 slow, deliberate knocks from room 309. My throat tightened. I told myself it was probably a guest, someone perfectly normal. I told myself a lot of things in those next 60 seconds. None of them help. Then I heard it. A woman's voice coming from inside the room. "Please, help me." I grabbed the master key and went upstairs. The hallway on the 2nd floor felt different the moment I stepped onto it. Colder, darker. Even the flickering lights seemed to be pulling back, pulling away from the far end of the corridor, from room 309. I walked slowly, key in hand. My footsteps sounded wrong, too loud, like the hallway itself was listening to them. When I reached the door, the knocking had stopped. I pressed my ear against the wood. Silence. Then, "Please." I unlocked the door. The cold hit me immediately. Not the cold of air conditioning, something different, something that felt like it came from underneath the floor, from somewhere much deeper than the building's foundation. The room looked completely normal. Bed, nightstand, TV, closet, bathroom, everything in its place, everything ordinary. Except the mirror. It was on the wall directly facing the bed, larger than it needed to be, an old-fashioned frame. Dark, heavy wood, carved with patterns I couldn't quite make out in the low light, and while dust covered every other surface in that room, the center of the mirror was perfectly clean, like hands had been pressing against it, repeatedly, from both sides. I stepped closer. My reflection looked back at me, tired eyes, wet jacket, a face trying very hard to look braver than it felt. Normal, completely normal. Then the bathroom door creaked, not wide open, just slightly, just enough. I spun around, no one there. I turned back to the mirror. My reflection hadn't turned with me. It was still facing forward, smiling. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. Every cell in my body locked up at once as I watched my reflection, my own face, smile at me without my permission. Then it raised its hand. I hadn't moved. Slowly, with one extended finger, it pointed, behind me, toward the closet. 3 soft knocks came from inside it. Then a voice, not the woman's voice, something older, something that had forgotten how human speech worked. Don't let it see you. I backed away from the mirror immediately, knocking into the bed frame, eyes darting between the mirror and the closet door. The closet door was moving, slowly, by itself, inch by inch, pulling open into darkness. And from inside that darkness, I heard breathing, not normal breathing, wet, ragged, uneven, like someone who had been drowning for a very long time and had almost accepted it. I ran for the door. I hit it full speed, and it slammed shut before I reached it. Not gradually, not slowly. Slammed, like something on the other side had been waiting for me to run. The lights went out. Complete darkness, except for the mirror. The mirror was glowing, not with any light source I could identify, just a dull, gray luminescence, like a screen left on in an empty room in the middle of the night. And in that glow, I was not alone in my reflection anymore. Behind me stood a figure, tall, too tall for the ceiling. It bent at the neck to fit, tilting its head sideways at an angle that would have snapped a normal spine. Its arms were wrong, too long, hanging past where knees should be, and its face, there was no face, just a flat, dark shadow, a suggestion of something that had once been a face, long ago, before it stopped needing one. I could feel its breath on the back of my neck, cold, rhythmic, patient, like it had been waiting for me specifically. I spun around, nothing. Then the TV turned on. White static filled the room, loud and electric. Then the static settled, and words appeared, one at a time. Look at the mirror. I don't know why I did it. I don't know if I chose to, or if something chose for me, but I looked. My reflection was gone. Only the tall figure remained in the glass, and it was closer now, much closer. Its head tilted toward where my face should have been, the way a curious animal studies something it has never seen before. It finally brought me someone else. The mirror cracked. Not a small crack, a fracture down the center, sharp and loud, like a gunshot in the silent room. And then, a hand came through it. Not a reflection of a hand, a real hand. Pale, gray-white, like something that had never seen sunlight. Fingers too long, nails broken and dark, gripping the wooden frame from inside the glass. Then another hand appeared beside it. Then another. Then another. Hands. Dozens of hands, pressing through the cracked glass like people packed behind a door they had been trying to open for years. The glass bulged outward, groaned, and the voices started. all at once, layered on top of each other, men and women, and some that had no gender left, all whispering the same thing. "Switch places. Let us out. You looked too long. You looked too long. You looked too long." The temperature dropped so suddenly I gasped. Frost formed on the windowsill in seconds. My breath turned to white vapor. The hands reached farther, fingers stretching toward me. I grabbed the door handle, and it opened. I don't know why it opened then. I don't know if something decided to let me go, or if it simply wasn't finished with me yet. I ran into the hallway and didn't stop until I hit the stairwell. When I looked back, room 309 was gone. Not closed, not locked. Gone. A blank wall stood in its place, smooth, no doorframe, no room number, as if room 309 had never existed at all. I pressed my hand against the wall. It was ice cold. Mr. Harlan was standing behind the front desk when I came downstairs, not surprised, not alarmed, just waiting. He looked at me the way a doctor looks at a patient whose results he's already read. "Did you look into the mirror?" I couldn't answer. My hands were shaking. My voice was gone somewhere up in that hallway. He reached under the counter and slid something across toward me. An old newspaper, yellowed, brittle at the edges. The headline, "Motel Guest Murders 3 Before Taking Own Life in Room 309." Dated October 14th, 1987. A man named Gerald Marsh had checked into room 309 alone. No history of violence, no mental illness. A traveling salesman from Phoenix. By every account, a completely ordinary man. 3 days later, the housekeeper found him, and 3 other guests who had no reason to be in his room, all dead. Gerald had taken his own life last. The investigators found something they couldn't explain, something they buried at the bottom of the file. Gerald had covered every inch of the mirror with tape and newspaper before the end. And on that newspaper, written in something that wasn't ink, were the same 3 words, repeated hundreds of times. "Don't look back." I set the newspaper down. At the bottom of the front page was a crime scene photograph. Police officers standing in the room. Flash photography. The standard stuff. I almost didn't look at the mirror in the background. But I did. And standing in the mirror, behind the police officers, in a reflection that didn't match the room, was the tall figure. Head bent sideways, long arms, no face. Looking directly at the camera, looking directly at me. I quit before sunrise. I didn't take my last paycheck. I didn't say goodbye to Harlan. I just walked to my car, drove until the motel disappeared from my rearview mirror, and kept driving until the sun came up. I told myself it was over. I was wrong. It's been 3 months, and something followed me home. I notice it in small ways at first. My reflection in the bathroom mirror, taking half a second too long to blink when I blink. The reflection of my hand waving in the hallway mirror, a fraction of a beat behind my actual hand. Like something inside the glass was still learning how to copy me, still rehearsing. Last week, I caught it smiling before I did. I hadn't smiled. I had no reason to smile, but the face in the mirror smiled first. And the night after that, I woke up at 3 a.m. to a sound, knocking, from inside my bedroom mirror. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. And a voice I recognized. That same woman's voice from room 309. "Please, help me." I covered every mirror in my apartment the next morning, every single one. Tape, sheets, cardboard, whatever I had. And for a few days, it was quiet. But last night, I walked past the covered mirror in my hallway, and from behind the sheet, something knocked back 3 times. I don't know what Gerald Marsh saw in that mirror in 1987. I don't know how long he lasted before whatever was inside it broke him completely. But I understand now why he covered it, and I understand why he wrote those words hundreds of times, over and over. Don't look back. Don't ever look back. If you're watching this, check your nearest mirror right now. Is your reflection copying you? Or is it waiting? Because the thing in room 309 didn't just take Gerald, it took everyone who looked long enough. And I looked for a very long time. Sleep well.